On the Tupac song, I Ain't Mad at You,
Yeah.
there's a rumor that that's actually about you. Oh,
Nah,
you a
nah, nah.
Muslim now? No more dope game?
Everybody say this, man. I get that question a lot, but Pac, when he did that song, I wasn't Muslim then.
Okay,
You know
so
what I
there you
mean?
go.
I wasn't Muslim then, and I remember Pac speaking about who he was talking about in that song. I remember he mentioned to us that there's pretty much stuff you see in the hood. You know, it might not be that rampant on the West Coast, but on the East Coast, New Jersey, New York, and Philly, we always see like the big homies going to prison and coming back Muslim, and majority of them change. You know what I mean? The ones who take it serious change to be more peaceful. So I think he just was like, these are the things you see in the hood. I'm gonna put it in the song. That's how Pac was.
Yeah, and come to think of it, Pac was supposed to play the Muslim character in Menace to Society
Yes, yes.
until it didn't
Yes.
quite work out that way.
It didn't work out that way. It didn't work out that way.
But were you around him during that time?
I was around, I think I met Pac, I would say 92, 93. The first time that I met him. So I'm not sure exactly. I remember hearing situations about that, you know, and Pac didn't want to play, I guess, like a gangster Muslim, you know. Pac had he have aunties and cousins and uncles that are Muslim. So he knew, there's no such thing as a gangster Muslim. Unfortunately, you have some Muslims who want to be gangsters, but if you practice your religion, it would take you away from that lifestyle.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Now, I watched your documentary.
You did?
I
Okay.
did. I did. We haven't talked about it, but
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched it all the way through.
Okay.
And I believe last time we talked, you talked about how these guys went into your house and ended up killing your parents
Yes.
in front of you and your brothers.
My brothers, yes, yes.
Two brothers?
Two brothers, yes,
Right.
yes.
What I didn't realize until watching the documentary was that after that happened, the three kids were with your parents' dead bodies for like 2 or 3 days or something?
For a whole day, yes.
For a whole day.
Maybe a day and a half. You know, the people that came into the house, they was pretty much friends with my father. They grew up with my father.
Yeah.
And they used to spend the night at my grandmother's house. You understand? One day they came in as if it was a normal visit, took out weapons, killed my father, shot him in the chest one time. Instantly he died. My mother, she was pretty much, and this let me realize the power and the strength of a mother when it comes to protect their children. My mother, she was running around the house grabbing me and my brothers. They shot her 7 times, 13 times before she passed away. But she was able to protect us. She hid in the bathroom. Then my little brother, he was only 6 months, she hid him in the drawer, the dresser, cracked the dresser, And me and my other brother, by the permission of God, she was able to save us, protect us.
And she was shot 13 times.
13 times before
trying to save her 3
trying
kids.
to save her kids, yeah.
That's horrible, man.
Yeah, this is unfortunately,
that's horrible. And and I kind of feel myself sort of tearing up hearing the story. And I guess when you first met Tupac, you told him the same story, and Tupac
he started crying.
crying.
He started crying, and I was shocked because when I first met Pac, I thought we hear the rumors. He already put out the record strictly for my NIGGAZ, and. So when I told him the story, he started crying. No one really ever reacted over the story of the death of my parents like that. Growing up, I grew up in Irvington and Newark, New Jersey, which is a very violent cities, So when I tell other friends, I had many friends who didn't have a father or didn't have a mother in the household, so it was kind of normal. But when I told Pac, he started crying, and he was the first one to react like that, And I was shocked of his reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And after hearing the story, he took you in.
He pretty much took me in, you know what I mean? He pretty much said, man, his words was, I got you, we gonna make it happen. And I ran into different rappers before that because at that particular time, I was looking to get into the music industry, and I ran to certain rappers before, I don't even have to mention their name, and all of them would say things and no one came through. So I thought Pac was similar to these other artists,
Yeah.
One day I get a phone call. Pac was in New York City working on Me Against the World. And he called, he said, look, I'm doing my album, Me Against the World, I want you on a song. And I was shocked, like, wow, me, you serious? Hopped on the train, went back. A few friends took me to New York City, and that's the first record that I ever appeared on was the Me Against the World record, Outlawz song. So he was a man of his word, you know what I mean? He was a man of his word.
After that, you started rolling with Tupac and the Outlawz?
I started rolling with Pac. We wasn't the Outlawz then. You know, I started rolling with Pac. I always wanted to be a solo artist. So when I met Pac, I kept saying, I want to be Little Moo, you know? And he decided to put a rap group. At first, we was called the Young Thugs. It was me, Edie, Castro, and Gaddafi.
The Young Thugs.
The Young Thugs, you know what I mean?
Wow, that is, hearing that right now with, you know, a big artist named Young Thug.
Yeah, true.
You guys were going to be the Young Thugs.
We was a group called the Young Thugs at first, you know what I mean? And then,
oh, wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah, that was like 92, 93, you know what I
Okay.
mean? And then he changed the name to Dramacidal. You know, he said, matter of fact, I want to call you guys Dramacidal. And that particular time, it was me, Edie, and Castro. I think Gaddafi went back to New Jersey and got in some trouble. So he didn't record. We signed a record deal with Interscope. And when he went to prison, that's when he decided to make the group Outlawz, or Outlaw Immortals.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why were you Napoleon?
Napoleon, man, because I used to have a real bad temper, very fiery temper, very, you know, angry. You know, Pac used to joke and say I got the short man complex or the Napoleonic complex, so he gave me the name Napoleon.
Well, I mean, Tupac was pretty short also.
Yeah, but he was taller than me.
Oh, okay. How tall are you?
I'm about, man, what I would say about 5'9", 5'10", or something like that. You know, if I'm not mistaken, yeah.
Wait, you're 5? Wait.
I think Pac was about 5'11", I would think.
5'11"?
I think,
Okay.
you know what I mean? So I'm about 5'9", 5'9".
Okay.
I think, man, I don't want to be shorter than what I'm supposed to be.
Right.
I got to edit that out.
So Pac gave you the name Napoleon,
Yes.
but your nickname was still Lil
My nickname, even though he gave us the name Napoleon, he still, and pretty much everybody called me Moo, even to this day, you know?
And he mentioned, right, because you got mentioned in Hit 'Em Up.
Yeah, by Fatal, yeah.
Yeah. He said, well, Lil Moo passed
Little
the
Moo past the Mac.
Mac.
Yeah, for sure.
And were you rolling around with Max back then?
You know, we definitely was, I'm not gonna lie, man, we never left the house without being strapped with some type of weapon, you know what I mean? We always had, it was always someone else, that was the rule, that it was always someone with us that had to have a gun. You know, Pac would make sure one of us was strapped at all times, you know?
Well, you had the, you know, on Tupac's Life of an Outlaw,
Yes,
there was like that one part
yes.
where he said, you know, Napoleon, what up?
When you die for me.
And you say,
I said, yeah, heck yeah. When you kill for me, I said on my grandmother. My grandmother just passed away, you know what I mean? So it was like, she just died, and Pac like, man, you got to come back. I'm almost finished my album.
Okay.
I wanted to stay in Jersey. He's like, no, I'm sending you an airline ticket, come back. So when I got back, when he did that song, it was emotional song for me, you know what I mean?
well, I mean, when you say, you know, would you kill for me? You say, hell yeah. I mean, I kind of feel you know, that wasn't just a lyric.
Of
like
course
I really
not,
feel at that time when you were in that booth, you really were ready to kill and die for Tupac.
Of course, man. Pac, I was loyal, you know what I mean? I always been that. He was an individual that took me out of the hood. He was a person that, he used to take care of my grandparents, you know, send them gifts and stuff like that. That's how Pac was. The first time that I ever performed in Las Vegas with him at 6662, he surprised my grandfather, flown way out there to come, you know what I mean? So he, not only did he help me, he used to help my family a lot. So I was the type of individual, I looked at him like a big brother, a family member, you know? So if he was in harm's way, at that particular time, of course, I put my life, many times I jumped out. And Pac used to say, Moo, you have to chill because you're in Los Angeles now, and you jumping out on people's cars, they will kill you. You know, I remember one time we was at a light and some cats was rolling up and they was mouthing off, and we was in Pac convertible. He had the Rolls Royce at that particular time, convertible. Okay. And Pac, I seen it in his eyes, he was distressed, like, again? Like they rolled up and they was like, you a buster, Pac. And you know, Pac, he not gonna back down, but it come a point in your life where you're like, man, I'm tired of confrontations, you know what I mean?
So you're saying that rolling around LA, if you're talking about the Rolls Royce, this is probably the height of, this is like All Eyes on Me, Tupac?
Yeah, for sure.
So you're talking about All Eyes on Me, Tupac is rolling around in LA in a Rolls Royce and people are rolling up and talking shit?
Yeah, you
like,
had
for
people.
real?
Yeah, you got a lot of ignorant folks out there, you know what I mean? You got people that want to test you all the time, you know? So Pac, I remember we was at a light on Wilshire Boulevard. Leaving his house, he had a condo, he had like a flat there, you know, we were leaving, a car rolled up. And I remember clearly they was from the Bay Area because they was yelling out Vallejo, you know, they was yelling out, we Vallejo, homie, you a buster, this and this and that. And Pac, he was like, man, even though we had security a couple cars behind, you know, Pac was like, okay, meet me at the light. You know what I mean? See, Pac was the type of person, he not gonna back down. He's like, come to the next light, pull over, or to the corner, something like that. But I seen it in Pac's face. He don't, come on, he don't got time for this stuff. You understand? He trying to be,
Yeah.
you know, he's an artist. He's selling millions of records, and you coming at him with this stuff. He don't really got time for this. And I seen that look, you know. And I was in the back seat of the car, and I'm like, I'm itching. And I couldn't take it no more. The next light, I jumped out, ran to the car, smack, ran to the other car. And the guys went from tough macho men to, okay, Pac, get your little homie. You know what I mean? And I don't know what, it just clicked.
Wait, so you just slapped him with your hand?
I slapped him with my hand, went to the other guy, did some other things to him, you know. And Pac was like, later on, he's like, man, never do that again, because this is LA. You jumping out on people, you'll get shot. And I never even looked at it like that. You know, I was just a young kid who was wild. You know, I just seen him pushing up on Pac, and I just couldn't take it no more. But
Wow.
these are
See,
the young days, man.
Did you have a pistol on you at the time?
I don't believe so. No, I
Okay.
didn't have a pistol. Yeah.
So you just went in
Yeah, I just went in and
hoping for the best.
hoping for the best, man, which was I would say stupidity. You know what I mean? Knowing that, you know, people get their lives taken like that every single day, especially out here in LA. You know, but I was a young cat that really didn't. I would act first and then think later. You know, I would look back later and say, yeah, I shouldn't have done that.